To the next one. Revelation 13:10. What does that say? This is for the Hebrewites who try to say you're going to be put into slavery. You're going to be cast into slavery. What does Revelation 13:10 say? But we got to start in the beginning. We got to go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit, starting in verse 4. Revelation 13. And they worshiped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who can fight against us? So this is the rise of the beast. This is not trying to do your eschatology. It's important to understand what the context is. And the beast was given a mouth, uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed, God sovereignly is allowing this to happen, to exercise authority for 42 months. The beast is in charge. God's allowing it. It opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Also, it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. That's the interpretive verse here. And you'll see where I'm going, hopefully, in a second. And authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation. That's important, too. So this is global. And all who dwell on earth will worship it, everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with a sword must he be slain. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. If God has you marked out to be a martyr, you're going to die for the faith. If God has it marked out, you're going to go to prison for him, you're going to go to prison for him. That's what it's saying. I hope it's clear when you look at it. They say, and they'll use the KJV, this is saying if you killed with the sword, you're going to be killed with the sword. If you threw someone in bondage, you're going to be put in bondage. It's a retribution verse. That's how they interpret it. You'll hear Revelation 13:10 constantly, especially by the camps on the street, especially. But that's not what it's saying.
Poor guy. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all the praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai Ba'ashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honor to the elder apostles of the great millstone who rule well, and as always, peace and blessings to the hopeful elect tabernacle of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Now, I know a lot of these jakes that attended this little lecture right here, I know they got an ear full, and he did a lot of his usual tactics, with using good words and fair speeches, sounding very convincing. All right, handling the word deceitfully. They just ate that all up. They ate it up and they drunk it up. See, this is what'll happen if you're not learned and you don't search the scriptures for yourself. The scriptures say to study to show thyself approved unto the Most High. It also tells you the simple believeth every word, but the prudent man look well to his going. So now you just heard him completely butcher Revelation 13:9 and 10, in which we actually covered this a while ago, because he gave the same explanation, and I forgot who he was talking to. It was another live, where he was going into the scriptures, and he attempted to go into the prophecy, which is his weak point. He cannot go into prophecy. He does not know prophecy. When he do, he ends up making a fool of himself. All right, so that's why it's good to understand these scriptures. All right, now he went into the NIV translation where it actually says what he actually quoted. Let's go there real quick. Let's go. Let me open another tab and let's go there. And you're gonna see why he read that translation, because it definitely coincides with his narrative. And that's why you got to be learned. You got to have discernment, when dealing with these scriptures, because you can read certain translations, and when you read it for face value, it can alter your understanding if you're not careful. Now, when we read some of these scriptures, we will go to other translations just so that you can read it and better understand it in the newest form of English. because many different times the text had to be um, edited and retranslated so that the readers can actually understand it in its language. Because we know that the English language, which is a bastard language, it's evolved over the course of time. It changed. So certain translations, you know, you might understand it better, even though at times, depending on the chapters and the verses, sometimes they go off, whether they omit from the scripture or whether they add to it. And you gotta be very careful. That's why it takes discernment. All right, you gotta trust in the Lord and lead up and not to lean upon your own understanding. So when you go to Revelation 13, 9 and 10, which he started at the fourth verse where it talks about the dragon, in which the dragon is still currently in power right now. All right, this is the modern Roman Empire. All right, it came back, um, set up the same power structure, but it's newly advanced. It's technological now, but they implemented the same fashion, the same structure. All right, he came back with a vengeance after it went down, and then you had the Dark Ages, the Dark Period, which when they call it the Dark Period, but that was the time period where Jake was actually in rule. But it was prophesied that they would come back with a vengeance. That deadly wound would be healed, and it would come back with a vengeance, and they would make war against the saints, and that's how we ended up in captivity. They made war with us, they killed a lot of us, and they led us captive, all right, from one side of the world to the other. All right, so he would be given that authority, that dominion, power over the world, and that's why you have the European Union, you have NATO, and America, stemmed out of one of the seven heads of the beast, which was Great Britain. All right. So after they would make war with us and overcome us, we would be in subjection. So continuing on, it says, I'm gonna read it, Revelation 13 in verse 9 and 10. It says, "If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." So when you read it in the regular King James Bible, it clearly say what it says. There's no complication in trying to understand what's being portrayed here. All right, he that lead if you lead a nation captive, you're gonna become captive. The Lord's gonna put you in a captivity. There's nothing complicated about understanding what's being said here, but I can understand it would become complicated when you read the other translation that's telling you a different narrative, the NIV. Now, this is the same NIV that when you read Deuteronomy 28 and 68 in the same translation, it actually tells you that Israel will offer themselves for slaves, but no man will buy you. Now, are you really gonna sit there and really believe that Israelites were gonna sell themselves into captivity, but nobody was gonna buy them? So they wasn't gonna. How you gonna sell something and it not be bought? Make that make sense. But when you read the Deuteronomy 28:68 in this same translation, that's what it says. You can look it up. You can look it up for yourself. So reading Revelation 13, 9, and 10 in this same translation. Whoever has ears, let them hear. This is why it's not always um expedient, going into these other translations. That's why you got to really have a thorough understanding. You got to be grounded in these scriptures to know, to decipher when certain translations is bullshit and when it's actually on point. All right. Verse 10, it says, "If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed." This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. So he's saying that this has all to do with persecution and not rep, um, retribution. Now, what I did was I went to all the older translations, especially the most um, respected translations from the Protestants, because vocab he's a Calvinist, all right, which Calvinist was a he was one of those Reformed theologians. He was a Protestant, all right. Now, one of the first translations I went to, just to search it out and read what it says, I went to the Geneva Bible, all right, and this is where um John Calvin, all right, he had presence in Geneva. When you look him up, had a church there, and when you look up the information, they also called it the Breaches Bible. It was an English translation that was published in the late 1550s. All right, and then you had a colony of Protestant scholars that was in exile from England, and then they had direction under a couple of these guys that was under the influence of John Calvin. So if you are a Protestant, or if you follow Calvinism, then you wouldn't have an issue with this translation. So this is in the Geneva Bible, all right, and it says, and I typed in Revelation 13:9 and 10. It says, "If any man have an ear, let him hear. If any lead into captivity, if any lead into captivity, you're leading something into something, right? He, the one that did the leading, shall go into captivity." This is what the Geneva Bible says, right? Why didn't vocab go into this one? If any kill with a sword, he must be killed by a sword. Oh my goodness. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And we're gonna get, because the elder brother Manatazakba, he actually went into the other precepts and broke it down. All right. Where it implies, according to prophecy, that there is going to be a retribution for leading his people into captivity. All right. And that's the destination for all you heathen nations out there, man. All right, all of you. So this is what it says in the Geneva translation. Now let's go to the Tyndale translation. And this translation was published in the mid 1500s. So it was roughly uh 80 plus years before the King James translation. All right. And you could tell based off of the English that is written in. You could tell this is hella old, right? So I pulled it up, Revelation 13, and then here's the verses here, 9 and 10. It says, if, where the Y is we use the I now. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So this is the Tyndale translation. It looked to me as if it's saying the exact same thing that the King James version says, but it's only worded different because the English language was a bit different. But it's still saying the exact same thing verbatim. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword, or with a sword, must be killed with a sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. All right. So these are two other older translations. Okay. And they're saying the same thing. Now let's deal with the Texas Receptus, which, when you look that up, that was the main inspiration and influence behind King James having the scholars to translate. They used the Texas Receptus to translate to the Latin, from the Greek and the Latin into the English. All right, which it was old Quakers English. So Texas Receptus, in Christianity, the term Texas Receptus, Latin for a received text, refers to all printed editions of the Greek New Testament from Erasmus Novum Instrumentum Omni 1516 to 1633 as a Veer edition. It was the most commonly used text type for Protestant denominations. So it was the most commonly used text because this is the Greek manuscript of the New Testament. All right. So what I went and did was I went to it, the Texas Receptus, and this is in the Greek. And we know that the New Testament was written in the Greek. And what I did was I copy and pasted it, and I'll put it in this site right here, uh, Deep L Translator, deepl.com. So any brother can actually go here. All right. So I copied and pasted it right here, and it detected the Greek and had it translated to English. And this is what it's saying in English: when he taketh them captive, he shall go into captivity. Oh my goodness. When he taketh them captive, and it's a fact that the nation of Israel was taken captive by their oppressors. It just so happened that this current beast that's over us now, they the ones that took us captive, which is why we're still in their hands to this very day. And now he's getting ready to set up an even more a more advanced captivity. He's getting ready to digitize that captivity. All right. He's about to try to secure it, lock us down, take our soul. All right. Put his brand mark up in us and make us his property. That's how far he wants to go with that captivity. He's going to be able to have power over you, to trace, track, monitor you, keep you close surveillance. So we're going to definitely be in need of a savior, man. All right, and we're still captive. All right, it tells you that in Baruch, was at the 3rd chapter in the 8th verse. We are yet this day in our captivity, and we're subject to payments. All right, so to this very day, we're still up under this same oppressor, the same enemy. All right, so continuing on, it says, "He shall go into captivity when he taketh them by the sword, and Esau he lives by the sword that was given to him according to the blessing. When he taketh them by the sword, he shall see him taken by the sword." You see that? Let me read that again. It says, "When he taketh them by the sword," and that's how he took us, "he shall send him," it's like he shall see him taken by the sword. Meaning we're gonna the way they took us down, we're gonna see them taken down. The way they took us down, we're gonna see them taken down. They took us down by the sword. That's how they was able to force us into captivity. They waged war against the saints and prevailed and overcame us. He had that sword. All right. So we're gonna see him fall by the very sword, man. Let me get a quick precept. Let's go to Psalm 7. Yeah, Psalm 7 and verse yep, Psalm 7, and I'm gonna start at verse 11. It says, "The Most High judgeth the righteous, and the Most High is angry with the wicked every day. If he turn not, he will whet his sword, he will bend his bow and make it ready. He have also prepared for him the instruments of death." And those of you that's watching, that's in the know, you already know what this is. The instruments of death. That's talking about the instruments of the weapons of the Lord's indignation that he's going to use to destroy this place. The same place of our captivity where we were held captive. Where it also says in prophecy, Jeremiah 50 and 30, the children of Israel and the children of Judah will press together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Hence why we're still in their hands to this very day. All right. He went after both the north and the south with the sword and prevailed. You had Gad, they put up a fight. They was fucking Esau up in the beginning, but because of prophecy's sake, it was meant for them to be taken down. And then for the southern kingdom to be brought over here against their will on slave ships, hence Deuteronomy 28:68. And no nation or any of our people that was left behind, they did not have the power to restore us or to buy us back. All right. So that's why the Lord's gonna hold everything against you devils, you Edomites. Despite what vocab is talking about, he's trying to wander out of judgment. All right, and he's reaching like Dazim. It says he ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. Behold, he travaileth with iniquity and have conceived mischief and brought forth falsehood. He lied to the whole planet. He made a pit and digged it and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall be returned upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come upon his own pate. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. All right. So just as he took us down with violence, his kingdom is going to be thrown down with violence. And that's in Revelation 18. Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down. All right. So anyway, let's go back to read the Texas Receptus translation. And this is how it actually reads. So clearly this is totally different from the NIV and them other translations that insinuates that it's talking about you're going to have to go into persecution. You're going to get locked up and go into captivity, into prison, and you're just going to have to take that. You're just going to have patience and faith. It already says that in Revelation 2, how the devil's going to cast some of you to prison that you may be tried 10 days, but be faithful unto death, and the Lord shall give you the crown of life. That warning already went out. This is talking about later on in the future, how this beast was going to overcome us, but at the end, all right, when the Lord judges them, the same thing that they did to us is going to be their fate. They're going to be taken down by the sword. They're going to go into slavery, captivity. Okay, so let's get some precepts on that now. We didn't read through the Geneva translation, the Tyndale translation, and we went into the Texas Receptus, which the New Testament was written, right? That Greek manuscript. So let's go real quick. Let's go to Jeremiah 30 and 16. Now, mind you, this is after we go through Jacob's trouble. When the Lord deliver us from the captivity, he break that yoke up off of us. One of the things that was said to Jacob was that his the elder brother shall serve the younger. And what was the blessing? The blessing was that the nations are gonna basically bow and serve him, serve Jacob. They were gonna serve the Israelites. So after they didn't serve themselves of Jacob by taking them captive and ruling over them, the Lord's gonna break that yoke from their neck. Once they go through the tribulation, we're gonna be delivered, right? This is what's gonna happen after. We're gonna go through the hell. Jeremiah 30 in verse 15 it says, "Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity." This is why Jake got to go through it, because of their iniquity. They transgress. But this is the final period where they're gonna suffer through the punishment. And guess what? After that, their punishment is gonna be over with. It's gonna be turned for these other nations to drink of the cup. It says, "Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity." In other words, when the Lord returns, and basically deliver the captivity, turn back the captivity of Jacob, he's going to become an adversary to our adversaries. And that's going back to the law in Exodus, was that 23? Let me see if I could get that. Exodus 23. This was said way back then. So the Lord always been consistent with, retribution, recompense, vengeance against these other nations, especially if we repent and return back to him, which we actually did. We've been reconciled to him through our Lord Yahushai. All right. We clinged unto Yahushai, and Yahushai was given a dominion. That's why when he comes back down, he's going to judge and make war with all these nations that are up, that are on high right now, and he's going to put them in subjection. And his people, the Israelites, the saints of the Most High, they're going to reign with him. So yes, that is our faith and our patience. We're going to do to these nations what they done unto us. But this is Exodus 23 and verse 22. It says, "But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice," and that voice is talking about Yahushua. He's that angel spoken of right here. He was that rock back then that followed us, that cloud. All right. Because that same angel had the power to pardon transgressions. So we know that was clearly an appearance of our Lord. Okay. And this is what was said. It says, "But if thou wilt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then will I be an enemy unto thine enemies and an adversary unto thine adversary." So the Lord's going to be on our side this time. All right. So after we come out of this captivity and out of this time of tribulation, this is what the Lord said. "Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity." Right? Because we were led captive among all the nations, serving them and their idols and practicing in their cultures and being looked down upon and treated, less than human. All right. Well, now you got a taste of that cup. It says, "And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil," meaning we were taken as a people. Well, you're going to be taken. All right, you're going to be spoiled, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. All right, and that's also in Isaiah 33. It's another one. A matter of fact, hold up. Let me go back to Jeremiah 30, because we know the scholars that put this together. They also be putting when you go to the cross references, they actually put verses that correlates or responds or relates to these particular verses, right? Now, when you go down the list of the scriptures they got, Jeremiah 25 talk about the Lord passing the drink of judgment around to the nations. Let's go down, dealing with Babylon. And I quoted this, Jeremiah 50 and 33. All right, we were taken captive, and we were held right here in Babylon captive, both the northern and the southern kingdom. We caught hell, we got lynched. All right, we built this place up with slave labor. We were exploited. All the natural resources of this land was exploited. That's how these devils became so wealthy, and they own every goddamn thing. That's how they built Wall Street and the whole nine based off of our captivity here. All right, the Gadites, the Reubenites, the Issacharites were here, and then Judah was brought over here. So let's keep going down. Now it all is going right into all these different uh, prophecies. Um, yep, this one I just read. You see that? So that's in there. That it all ties in and relates. All right. Psalms 129:5. "Let them all be confounded and turn back that hate Zion." Psalms 137:8 and 9. "O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones." That's a retribution. What you did unto us, let it be done unto you. Isaiah 14:1. That we got to go to that, and we got to start from the top, which the elder already brought that out in his lesson, because that's a direct uh cut. It does not coincide with what vocab is talking about. But you see how he tried to spin that, and he's good with it, man. Because a lot of you dumb simple Negroes sitting in that crowd, I know you ate every last word up. All right, this is Isaiah 14:1. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land," and which he also teaches that was already fulfilled. Um, after the Babylonians got taken down, and we came out of the Babylonian captivity. Somehow, some way, we brought slaves with us to the land of basically back to the Holy Land. So we we put Babylonians in captivity while we were in captivity under the Medo-Persian Empire. Yeah, that's what he believes. That's what he teaches. That's why, hey, the simple believe every word. It says, "And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, slaves, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were." He that led into captivity is going to go into captivity. So here it is, this prophecy in Isaiah is reiterating that. I'm sure I'm sure the Lord knew exactly what he was talking about when he made the statement, man. And that was to build up the faith of our people. Because our people, they've been down and out. They've been exiled for so long. And it tells you that even in the same book in the prophet Isaiah, that the captive exile hasteth to be loose. You know, we tired of this damn pit. We tired of this system, man. We want our own sovereignty. All right, we want dominion. So the Lord's He's going to grant that to us. It says whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And who was our oppressors? The nations, but mainly Esau, Edom. All right, he's the top oppressor. He's the world dominant nation on the face of the earth. Okay, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. Man, we went through it here, man. All right here in this modern Egypt. Okay, so let's go back. So these are all just verses that relate to Jeremiah 30:16. But let's keep going. Here's the one that I was getting ready to go to. Isaiah 33:1. "Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled." And it even says that about Esau, how his neighbors are spoiled, his brethren, but he is not. "And dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee." We never dealt treacherously with them, but they always dealt treacherously with us. All right, Esau every time always found or sought vengeance against Jacob, and that's why shame is going to cover him because of his violent dealings. All right, it says, "When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled," meaning you're going to be taken, like it says back in Jeremiah 13:16, and that goes for these other nations too. "And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee." So you're going to be dealt with, man. You can't get out of this. This is what the scriptures actually say. We ain't making this up. All right, we didn't come up with this. All right, these were already written, man. The Lord already wrote it down. He already said it. He already spoke it. All right, Lamentations 1 and 21. Let's get that one. This is another one. Because basically what he's calling for in his lamentation is to the same hell that we got put through under the curse because we were, punished. Put that same hell on our enemies, on these other nations. All right. Lamentations 1 and 21, it says, "They have heard that I sigh. There was none to comfort me. All mine enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that thou hast done it. thou will bring the day that thou hast called, and they shall be like unto me. All right, all my enemies, all these nations that know, that we're captive, that we're, in hell, but all they did was rejoice. They gave each other gifts. They said, "Let our eye look upon Zion." They gnashed upon us with the teeth. They hissed. They wagged their heads. Well, that day is going to come where you're going to be like unto us. You're going to be in our position. All right, pursuant to Deuteronomy 30:7, the Lord's going to put the curses that we were under on all of our enemies. It says, "Let all our wickedness come before thee, and do unto them as thou hast done unto me, for all my transgressions. For my sides are many, and my heart is faint." And the Lord's going to do that, especially to Esau. All right, hence the next one, Lamentations 4:21 and 22. See how these all lining up? These scholars put this together, so they know. "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked," meaning the Lord's going to expose you. And you've been exposed since the prophet's been coming out for all these decades now. Everything's been coming out on you. So it's your turn to drink of the cup now. You got to get judged. All right, vocab, you damn demon. It says, "The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion." Or the Lord's getting ready to make an end of our captivity. But that's why we got to go through this last period of trouble. The Lord going to put us through the fire, but we're going to come out of it. It says, "He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." And you were the one who held us captive. All right, you shed the blood of the saints when we were in the captivity. All right, all the blood of the saints was spilt in his land, and that blood is getting ready to be disclosed. All right, that's why it says in Ezekiel about the blood is going to pursue you. Ezekiel 35:5, "Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end." And this damn sure correlates with he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. You can't tell me otherwise. Ezekiel 35, and I read verse 5. And verse 6, it says, "Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood." I mean, the Lord's going to give you over to the sword, just as you killed by the sword. The Lord's going to prepare you to the sword, and really, you're going to die by your own sword. But also, the Lord, we can't leave that out. The Lord's going to come back, and He's going to get you too. Him and the holy angels. It says, "And blood shall pursue thee." It says, "Thou has not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee." And that's why it was prophetic when Isaiah was at Isaiah 63. He saw the Lord coming down with that garment that was bloody red. Who is he? Who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? And it looked like he trampled in a wine vat, in a wine press. He's gonna trample you in his fury, man, for all the blood that you shed of the children of Israel. Okay, of all the tribes. All right, let's go down. I'm picking out the ones that actually relates and correlates, all right, with the actual passage in Revelation 13. And lo and behold, look, what do we see here? Revelation 13 and 10. Okay. "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword." Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. And I read through all the precepts and throughout all the other prophecies regarding this matter. All right, it all lines up. Vocab didn't do that. He just read the NIV translation and went into his exegesis on what that means. And that was supposed to be the drop the mic moment for him against the Israelites. Fail. All right. That was a fail, man. That was an air ball at the buzzer. You didn't that wasn't buckets. That wasn't net. That was all air ball, bruh. All right.
Use the KJV. This is saying
So
if you killed with the sword, you're going to be killed with the sword.
so you see
If
he's
you
gotta
threw
he
someone in
gotta
bondage, you're going to be
he
put.
gotta do all that explaining instead of letting the scriptures do the explaining. You see? It was already written what was going to happen. That's why the Lord said what he said. Yeah, we were going to go through hell. We were going to be conquered by the enemy, by the beast. He was going to have dominion over the world. So it was going to be hard for us to become sovereign up under that. That's why the Lord's going to be the one that's going to judge the whore. He's going to devour the beast, this whole setup, this whole system. And he's going to actually take these nations captive. The Lord's going to do that. He's going to judge and make war with these nations, pursuant to Revelation 19, verse 11. That's why it says that he had many crowns upon his head. He's going to take the kingdom from them, and they're going to become his inheritance. Ask of me, and I will give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. He's going to give them, he's going to give, the Most High is going to give Yahushua possession of the nations. So our patience and faith is, yeah, we're going to suffer under the hand of this devil, but the Lord's going to redeem us and deliver us out of his hand. And we're gonna actually get to watch the fall of our enemies. He took us down with the sword. He must be taken down by the sword, and that's gonna happen. He led us into captivity, and we went through captivity various times under him for long periods of time. Well, guess what? Under that reign of Yahushua for 1,000 years, he's gonna be in captivity. He's gonna be a slave. So that's our patience and our faith. We believe that. Yes. It is a righteous thing to the Most High to recompense tribulation against them that troubled thee. So I'm gonna end it right there, man. All right. Now that you come on, man. No, no, that wasn't it. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna end off with that. And this was just a land back off of the elder Manat Zakba. Lord willing, this was edifying. I'm gonna give all praise, glory, and honor to y'all, Bashim Shai. To the next lesson, Shalom.